the door opened, letting fresh air into the house. A cat sleeping peacefully by the furnace cracked open one eye to greet the newcomer. Seeing it was a person and not some evil spirit, it closed its eye again and went back to sleep. The steady crackle of the furnace, the hum of the working refrigerator, a small TV in the corner, a table by the little window. All of it was illuminated by a warm, yellow light. I silently took off my shoes and, holding a bag in my hands, walked to the table. Sitting at the table, just as silent as I was Sashka, the owner of this house. I didn't say anything, and neither did he. I just walked over and sat down. Without a word, Sanyok poured 2 shots of clear liquid, and without clinking glasses, we drank in remembrance.
How long did we sit in silence? Who knows? Maybe an hour, maybe a couple of minutes. Sashka was the one who broke the silence. So, they buried him? Yeah, took him to Sukharevska Cemetery. A hell of a lot of people showed up. He was a great guy, so they came to see him off. But you and I, we're in a bad spot. My wife told me today that they're gossiping about us. I frowned. On the night before our friend Sergei died, the 3 of us were planning to go fishing. Worse, we had all been talking with him just 40, maybe even 20 minutes before his death. We were sitting in the garage, relaxing, doing some minor work on the car. And that was the night he was killed, literally 5 houses down from us. Obviously, we weren't the ones who killed him. It was a love affair. Sergei made a move on a married woman. So her husband caved his head in. He didn't even try to hide it. But even though the killer was found, caught, and will spend a lot of time behind bars, the gossip, as it always does in a village, is spreading. It ranges from the mundane, that we were in on it and got him drunk on purpose, to theories that we practically held him down by his arms and legs, that we were accomplices at the very least. This is a village. People are bored, and there are plenty of old folks with dementia here, too. So you can't be surprised by these little things. But it got under my skin. You shouldn't have skipped it, I said. You could have at least seen him off. I can't. You know, it feels like we were just talking an hour ago. Like, we'll sit here now, and I'll see him tomorrow. He was a great guy, and he went too soon. Way too soon. Meanwhile, scumbags like Voiskov live on and on, though honestly, those wretches look like they're already looking for a plot in the cemetery. It's always the way. Enemies live, and friends die and die. That's true, but I can't do it. I might be a country boy, but I just can't handle funerals so calmly. I wouldn't say anyone goes to them calmly, I replied. But you know what I mean. For a long time now, my crazy grandfather used to scare me with all this funeral talk. Whenever I'd visit him, every other word was, "When you bury me," or "When you carry me out," or "I bet you won't even cry at my funeral." And you know, I was just a kid, and all he talked about was cemeteries. But that's not even the point. My grandpa, God rest his soul, told me a story once about a dead man, something that happened to him. So you understand where this was. My grandpa lived out past Mogilevka, and that place was a dense, wild thicket, even back when everything around it was booming. Even then, it was considered the middle of nowhere. I was afraid to go for walks. Literally, imagine you step outside, a huge village, and no one there. Even the road was overgrown. One time I decided to poke around in the house next door. I got close. Something fell inside, and I nearly shat my pants. I never went near anything else after that. And in the evening, when the shadows crept in, it was a hellish little village. But I knew it wasn't about wolves or anything like that. Something was happening in the village at night. I could hear someone running down the road, a human's run. I could hear someone shout, or, it felt like someone was sitting right under our window, just listening. One time, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I saw it.
In the window, a pale human mug pressed right against the glass, just looking. I was about to scream. I blinked, and it was gone. Pale, creepy, but human. I tried to talk to Grandpa about it, but he just said, "The main thing is, don't open the window, don't go outside, and everything will be fine." He didn't explain the mystery, but he didn't deny it either. The nights were terrible. And so in that atmosphere, in that lovely place, my grandpa told me this story. He told it, as was fitting, in his workshop as evening fell. "I'm going to die soon, grandson," he said. "A week, maybe 5 days left. You'll stay for 4 more days, and then I'll take you back home." I was taken aback. "What makes you say that? And with such a specific date?" "This is why," he began. "Not long ago, I was working with some wood and I started to feel sick. At my age, death doesn't scare you. Or rather, the fear isn't as strong. Deep down, you understand it's time, and you're already tired. But it's still a little scary. I grabbed my heart and went outside. My head was spinning. I thought I was about to join my old lady. I sit down on the workshop step and it starts to pass. My vision comes back. And as soon as I could see, I look, and there's a man standing by the fence. Pale skin, almost bleached white, bald as my knee, and his face was creepy, but calming at the same time. He looked at me, exhaled and left. And I, damn it, felt like I'd come back to life. It was like I remembered something and I ran home. You know they don't take pictures at funerals. I had 2 photos. I got out the old album, found the 2 photos, and in both of them, this man had appeared. Or rather, that's not right. He was always there. You could only see him a short time before your own death. I remember the exact day, the exact hour. Of course, that creepy guide wasn't there then. I'd seen those photos many times. He was never there. He only appeared now. This is either death itself or a guide to the afterlife. He was always near us, walking beside us, and when the hour of death drew near, he showed himself to hint that it was time. It's not for nothing that some people can literally feel their death coming. They can almost name the date. That's him. Once he appears, that's it. So I'm going to die soon. And what? Was he right? Yeah, he wasn't off by a single day. Well, I said to Sanyok, since you told me a mystical story, I'll tell you one too. It's not my story, but it's no less horrible. I'd call this story Hungry Day. And this is how it goes. This supposedly happened in Sukopol about 70 years ago. A guy inherited a cabin from his aunt, but there was a catch. The locals were dead set against him living there. Once a year, an event called Hungry Day takes place. On this day, no one in the village will give anyone a piece of bread. No one. The locals themselves prefer to stay home and not go beyond their own yards. On this day, a hungry person can walk through the village.
or a phenomenon that only pretends to be a person. It will go from yard to yard, begging for at least a crust of bread, or at least a drop of water. You can't give it anything, nothing, and you can only look at it out of the corner of your eye. The thing that walks, it is not a person, it is a phenomenon.
The guy, he took it seriously, but he wasn't going to leave. His livestock would die. So he decided he'd just board everything up and survive the one day. August 1st. The heat was intense. The guy is sitting at home, windows boarded up. Lunchtime passes. Evening is approaching. But then, he hears a voice from the street, a weak, pitiful voice. "Good people, spare a piece of bread for a traveler, a beggar, a poor and wretched soul. Help me with whatever you can, crust of stale bread, a drink of water. I have been walking for so long. I have no home, no destination. I am dying. I'm so hungry. Somebody, please, help me." The voice grew into a desperate wail. The guy hears the wailing right at his gate. He glances through a crack. And it's true. A man is on his knees, bowing, his head hitting the dust. He looks like a man in trouble, seeking help. But there was something unnatural in his appearance, something that sent a chill down the spine. The guy wanted to look away, but it was too late. The traveler's head snapped up, and its voice changed completely. It was a deep, guttural roar. "Aha! Here's who will give me bread!" The thing lunged for the window and started tearing off the boards. It ripped them off and broke into the house. The next day, the locals went to the house. They went inside, and there was the guy, lying dead, and in his hand was a gnawed-off hand, his own. An axe was sticking out of his other hand. He had tried to chop it off, but didn't manage. So what was it? It was a phenomenon called the Hungry One. They say that long, long ago the village was 10 kilometers to the north. The whole village starved to death there. And this phenomenon, it was once a man who lived there. They say he devoured his entire family. For that, he was cursed. He comes to the village once a year and begs for food. But the point isn't the food, it's the cannibals. They say if anyone in your family has eaten human flesh, the Hungry One will possess you. It possesses the descendant of a cannibal and begins to eat itself. Such is its punishment, and such is its curse. Sashka took another drink. "By the way," he said, his voice raspy, "speaking of strange things, my grandpa, he had stories. A few were pretty damn creepy. Here's one from him. I'll call it The Furnace. There was this little village, Babarovo, by a river, far from here. In his youth, my grandpa went there to work. He arrived and asked if anyone needed a carpenter. But the people, they were savage. They looked at him like he had the plague. So he went to another yard. He knocked. A creepy little man came out, a bit too smiley. And he says, 'Yes, the roof is crooked, the shed needs fixing, and it wouldn't hurt to work on the floors.' While he was working, he noticed something. It was summer, hot, no rain, but the furnace was lit. He got a little scared. What if he'd come to a warlock's house? But he calmed himself down. He needed the money. I'll tell the rest from my grandpa's point of view. Evening comes. It's dark. I'm climbing down from the roof. I go to the owner. 'Can I spend the night in your yard?' I ask. 'In the yard? Why?' 'Well, I need to sleep somewhere.'
No, that won't do at all. The dew here is something else. You'd wake up soaked and frozen. You better come inside. You can sleep at my place. But first, eat something. I agreed and went into the house. The owner said one important thing. His voice became stern. I have a furnace in the cellar. It's lit. And you must learn a few rules. First, you will not ask why it's in the cellar. Second, you will not put it out. Third, you will not ask anything more about it. There's a cot there. You can sleep on that.
A furnace in the cellar. What must be wrong with a man's head? But I was a guest, so I had to agree. I went down into the cellar. It was large, dry, and hot. The furnace glowed with a faint reddish light. "Remember what I told you," the owner said from above. "Don't you dare put out the furnace. Remember that, no matter what." He left me down below, and I lay down trying to sleep. Then, a whisper echoed from the furnace, a dry, metallic sound. "Man," it rasped. "Man." It was hard to make out over the crackling. "Put out the furnace and leave." "Be gone, foul spirit," I prayed, but the voice wouldn't stop. It was a creepy, metallic thing, like it came from hell itself. "He will kill you. Leave. But first, put out the furnace." "How can I put it out? It's red hot," I asked to no one. The voice came again, more urgent now. "Close the flue damper and say a prayer. The furnace will go out, and when you're done, get out and run. You don't have much time." Well, it was scary, but what else could I do? I decided to play along. I start to say a prayer, and I hear that indeed over time the flame subsides. And at some point, just as I'm finishing, I heard it. A frantic whisper screamed in my head. "Run! He's about to wake up!" I got up and I ran. I ran out of that house and didn't stop. The next morning I went back with a few other men from the village. We went in, and on the floor lay the skin of that man, almost hollow. Inside was a thin skeleton, but not a human one. And when they opened the furnace, it was filled to the brim with human bones. That's when they told me. That house had been standing there for 100 years, and that damned furnace had always been burning. People disappeared in that house, and the residents changed. Everyone who tried to fight that evil ended up in the furnace. And that creature, it always made travelers sleep by the furnace. They say if you slept for a night, your bones would become soft and pliable, like plasticine. It would come down, pull out all your insides through your mouth with its tongue, devour them, and then it would crawl inside you and live on. But only as long as the furnace burned with the bones of those it had eaten. And me? I listened to all this, and I got the hell out of there. "All right," I said, raising my glass. "Let's drink to all that is good, and to your grandpa, and to everyone who's no longer with us." "Yeah, and we should be heading out." Sashka's voice was strained. "I've remembered too much, and it's getting creepy. I've had enough." And we decided it was really time to wrap it up.